Hello, welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar Podcast. Excited for today's episode. We have the owner of Chaos Movement, and what he does is he helps authors get their books marketed and promoted. So I'm super excited to be rocking out today with Noah Asher. Hey, Noah, you ready to rock?
Ready to rock.
Awesome. So we always start off here on a good note. So tell me a story of success we can be inspired by.
Yeah, thanks. I love that question, and I think there's so many little moments I could point to, but I would say the initial moment that led me to where I am today was I was incarcerated years ago, and I just remember how hard it was to get a job in the market we live in. And I remember this owner of a hotel, very popular hotel chain. She gave me an opportunity to be at the front desk, and 3 weeks after being just a front desk associate, she promoted me to general manager in just 3 weeks, which was crazy in itself. But I remember she said to me, she said, "I don't care where you've been. I care where you are, where you're going." And ever since that, I've tried to really help others as a GM and then director of operations for the hotel chain. I remember telling my GMs, let's hire people with their, doesn't matter their background. I remember somebody coming up to me and saying, "Hey, thank you for allowing me to work here." And I looked at him and I said, "Sir, I don't care where you've been. I care where you are and where you're going." And that's something that's just always stuck with me. And that's something I love to do and help others. And now as a business owner, I try to give people as many chances as I can when it comes to work.
Wow, that's a really great story. So, and do you find that? Well, I mean, obviously, you were in this situation in the first place, so you come from experience, and
Yeah.
with all those hardships, what it takes to get in. So it's a little hard. So you probably do end up finding people that work a little bit harder, right?
They do. I think they get out and they wanna show themselves, they wanna show their family, and they wanna show their community that, hey, they're changed, they wanna do the right thing
Mm.
because they don't wanna go back sleeping on a one-inch mat. So, they wanna do what they can to to make a difference and to progress. And for me, even, it was more of I felt like, I'll use the word chaos because that's the name of my book, but I felt like the chaos I went through robbed me from a year or 2 of my life.
Mm.
And so for me, it was when I hit the ground running thinking I needed to catch up for the year and a half or so that I lost.
Wow. Okay. Now, I mean, we talk about the good note and the bad note on this show, and so I'm wondering, is there a bad note that you can share with us that you recovered from?
Yeah, the bad note I would say is even though I've been very blessed to have people that have come alongside me and, people who make comments like, "I don't care where you've been, I care where you are, where you're going," but I've also run across people, of course, who definitely care where I've been
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and definitely make it hard. And when you're in leadership, you automatically you don't do it yourself, but a target just grows on your back when you're in any sort of leadership role. And the higher up you get, the bigger the target gets. And so I've had times where, we had to fire somebody or, uh, get onto someone that works for you, and they then try to take it and run. And I've had that a few times, try to remind me of where I've been. And those moments are hard, but I've learned over the years that you have to do what Taylor Swift says, which haters are going to hate, but you got to shake it off. So there you go.
Yeah, you're right about that, eh? And I mean, sometimes, yeah, I guess everybody deals with haters, right?
Yeah,
And
for sure.
in that area, it would just be kind of like an easy target. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
but on the other hand, like you say, people that have been through that want to move forward, and they're probably going to be maybe even a little bit more resilient than someone who hasn't been through that hardship, right?
Oh, most definitely. And we would hire from, and anyone listening to this who has the ability to hire, one thing we did was we reached out to transitional centers and halfway houses. Those men and women have to have a job.
Mm.
So while we're dealing in a crisis now with employment where people just show up when they want to or call off a bunch, these men and women, they don't have the luxury of calling out. They got to be there. And so they were
Wow.
the most loyal employees because they had to be there, but also they wanted to be there. They wanted to get out of the transitional center for the day, and it gives them an opportunity to make money and, in turn, make a difference in their life. So when they are fully out of the prison system, the transitional center, and they're trying to find a house, they can afford it, or a vehicle. They have that money stored away. So yeah, I
Mhm.
challenge anyone who hires to definitely reach out to those centers because they are living the straight and narrow because they have no other option.
Wow. Well, and obviously there would be a stigma about it,
Yeah.
and I'm wondering, like on the flip side, are you ever worried about maybe hiring somebody that's gonna, I don't know, rip you off, or I don't even know what they would do, but you know what I
Yeah, no, I
mean?
see. Yeah, those questions are valid, and I would say that that same sort of risk, especially in the hotel industry, the men and women I hired from the transitional centers, knock on wood, I never had any issues with them. It was actually other people I had issues, other housekeepers who were, stealing shoes out of someone's
Yeah.
room, some nice
Yeah.
Jordans or something. And so I would say that a lot of times people incarcerated are the ones who did something bad and got caught. And some of the employees that you're working with, they've done bad, but they just haven't gotten caught. And so you run that risk either way. But when it comes to employment, most HR departments know that there's tax cuts as well as special insurance you can get and apply for if you are willing to hire somebody with like a felony background.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't know about that. That's really interesting. And and as you mentioned, I mean, it's kind of funny in a way, but not really. But yeah, the one that got caught, it
Yeah,
doesn't necessarily mean that the employees that you currently have, are better. It's just that they haven't gotten caught yet, which is not good for
exactly.
you, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
You know,
I would say that at least the ones who did something bad and they got caught, they know that if they get caught doing something again, they now truly know what the alternative is, and that's prison, and it's rough. And
yeah,
so they're actually the ones that I don't really have issues with because they're going, I don't want that again. And
yeah.
so they learned the lesson, they're moving on.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, everybody's got their own story, but
Yeah.
I would guess that many of the stories would have something in common, which is this desperation.
Yeah.
And I mean, if they get out of prison and now they can't find anything, now they're just back into another desperate role. So, if you can give them a lifeline, well, chances are pretty good that they're not gonna ruin that, right?
Most definitely. I deal a lot with legislation for reentry and rehabilitation with senators all over the country.
Mhm.
And something that I share often is that one thing we're doing when someone does mess up and we put them in the system, a lot of times we're just going, "What's wrong with you?" But the question we should be asking is what happened to you?
Yeah.
A lot of times there's the root of the issue that we need to get to. Sometimes it's desperation, sometimes it's childhood trauma,
Mhm.
but they're not just stealing, they're not just robbing, they're not just addicted to a substance because they enjoy it.
Yeah.
There's something deeper rooted in all of it, and it's getting down to that question and helping truly rehabilitate. I think we see so much recidivism in America because we're not seeing much rehabilitation.
Mhm. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I think this is a really good conversation for that. And I hope that there's some people that especially learning about, that there are programs out there that can
Yeah.
help you to, reduce your risk, if you're worried about that, right?
Oh, yeah, and again, for the people who hire those transitional centers, they're state run. They have, an employee on that staff at every transitional center whose job is to do, like, employee relations or employer
Wow.
relations, and so you can reach out to these transitional centers and say, "Hey, I have this sort of business. Um, when you have somebody with this sort of skill set, call me, email
Right.
me." And they will, because when those men come out of prison and they're in the transitional center, they go through a little bit of a phase of trying to get back transitioned. That's why it's transitional center, trying to get transitioned. And then they can start trying to find a job. And they don't come in some prison jumpsuit. No, they get to go to the store and buy, you know, free people clothes. That's what we
Hmm.
call it. And get to look. And most people don't even know that that's who's working in there. They wouldn't even consider that.
No.
And,
Yeah.
so it's awesome, and one other story, I remember I hired one guy, he had done 20 years, and I thought it was right around Christmas time, and I thought to myself, I'm like, "Wow, if he's done 20 years locked up, that means he's missed 20 Christmases without presents, without all of that. And it was Christmas time. And so I told my staff, I said, let's do something. And I told him he's missed 20 Christmases. They all immediately started giving money, and we gave this dude a bunch of presents. And he was this big old guy. And here he is. He has tears in his eyes. And I told him, hey, dude, he was trying to hide it. I said, you don't have to hide it anymore. You're free. You can cry. You can show emotion here. You're in a safe space. And that he was so honored by that. I ended up getting him, he moved from one state to another after he got out to live closer to his family. And he'll still reach out to me every once in a while. And he's just moved up the ladder himself. He's in a management position now.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oof. Okay, well, this is a good start to the interview, that's for
Yeah.
sure. So let's talk a little bit about fans, about getting fans to your business, because you help clients do that, right? So what is
I do.
it? Some of the strategies that you use for yourself and actually that you teach?
Yeah. Marketing is something that a lot of people don't spend money because they don't see we live in such a world where we need that immediate gratification. And marketing a lot of time is the long game.
Yeah, it is.
You have to invest money. The whole, saying of spend money to make money. It is so true when it comes to marketing. And it's the biggest word, in marketing is consistency. If you're not consistent, and you're not constantly pulling out, content, you are, you're hurting your business, but also you're wasting the money that you've already spent. And so
Mm,
it's like, once you decide, okay, I'm going to do this, let's do it. Let's do this marketing. Doing it is like a campaign. And once you start doing it, put everything you can into it because it really does matter. And so for me, even with my own business, the chaos movement, we have to spend money we first have to ask who our fans are, right? We have to ask that question of who's, like with your analogy of music, who would be in our audience? Who's going to come see us perform?
yeah.
If I'm in a rock band, why would I spend all of this money and energy on fans? Does that
Yeah.
make sense? And
Yeah.
so you have to be willing to say, okay, let's truly ask the question, who is our audience? Who is coming? Who needs our product? We work with authors. And so there's no reason for me to try to market in the fast food industry. That's not where my audience is.
Mhm.
And so we have to be very particular. And then once we figure out who that audience is, we have to go after them with everything we can. And we do that through Google ads really do work. We do that through social media. Now, social media is a giant right now. That's everything. That's where people invest. And that alone is all about producing content. Again, consistency, but also um, frequency
Mhm.
is another thing.
Yeah, I think so. The first part that you mentioned about who your audience is, I think this is probably I don't know if you agree, but I feel like that's the part that most entrepreneurs are scared to do, because it's like, yeah, but everybody can use this product, right? You sort of go
Right.
like, but anybody, I just want anybody to give me,
Mhm.
money so that I can make my business successful. But that tends to not work super well, right? I mean, hey, maybe it might work when
Yeah,
you're first opening the doors, you sort of put this call out to anybody, but like you say, if you are wanting to spend some money on marketing, then you're going to be spending some money putting it out to the wrong people, right?
exactly.
But also, like, are there any other advantages to like sort of niching down and figuring out exactly who your audience is?
Yeah, there's different stats on whether it's 7 or 12 times, but a lot of times you have to be consistent with um being in the getting in the same person's feed
Yes.
algorithms multiple times. And so if you just do one post, we've worked with a band. I travel and speak about my book and about helping people find purpose in their pain. And we have a band that travels with us. And when they play with me, they play the music I need them to play that goes with what I'm talking about. But
Hmm.
they have their own music out, and it's more rock, more like they're college students, and so it's more college sort of
Yeah.
music. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, okay, are you boosting your post? And they're like, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, who are you boosting it to?" And they go to University of Georgia, and so they're like, "Well, to, like, all over Georgia." And I said, "Nobody in, uh, North Georgia to the other side of the state, no one's listening to you. And so that's a waste of a boost.
Mm,
If your audience is college students, boost your ad to every college town. Right now, it's summertime, it's the beach. Boost it down in Panama City, Beach, Florida, that sort of thing. Be specific on where you're reaching. Be
yeah.
very, very, very specific. And then again, once you decide, okay, let's use like Athens, Georgia, where University of Georgia is. We'll use that as an example. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to do this ad to Athens this week, but my next ad's going to be to Maine the next week. No, no, no. You
Right.
have to keep pushing. And it's kind of like you're wearing people down. Keep
Yeah.
pushing until they're willing to open your post and look into what you're all about.
Yeah,
You
that's
got to
really
be in their
good.
face. Yeah,
Yeah, because the 2 things there is number 1, like, I mean, location, I think it's a really good way to explain something. I mean, if you're putting on a show locally and, you're boosting your ad to Europe, well,
exactly.
it's pretty clear that they're not gonna travel all the way to the States, for your show, so
Yeah,
it's important to boost to the people that can actually support you physically. But you said
right.
something else about the 7 contacts. I heard that too. I bet you it's a lot higher now, with,
Hmm.
the short attention spans and all that stuff. But
Yeah,
but that's another thing too, is that if you are boosting your ad to all these people, well, then that's gonna cost you a fortune to try to get 7 or 10 or 12, contacts with somebody. Whereas if you were to just kinda narrow it right down to these specific types of people, well, it's gonna cost a little bit less to get those 7, contacts, right?
right. Yeah, so it's all about, definitely you gotta just zone in, focus, 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 and the hardest thing to do is if I tell you to describe yourself, there's a little bit of bias there because you know yourself in a different way
Mm,
than what other people see you as, and a lot of times it's the same, especially as a business owner. You may think that your audience is this, but it's really over here on this side, and so it's good to get with your employees and go, let's just talk about who do you think? Maybe pull out the dry erase board and start giving everyone an option to discuss who you think, who they think your audience is. But get people who know your product and really dive into that. It takes time, but if you spend that time on the front end when you're really ready to start marketing and invest and put all that time into it, you know what you're doing. And
yeah.
another little thing that we love in this this world is hashtags. And hashtags matter when it comes to marketing. On social media, uh, this is a cheat code for you on social media. What I do is I emailed my person who handles my socials, I emailed a like all the hashtags for our posts. And so she goes to that email every time we're posting and she copies and just paste it with the post. And what that does, that really does work. Let's say that you're trying to get on like the For You page. I don't always recommend that, but if that's your thing, we'll just use that as an example. There's like 12 million posts on the For You page, right? And so your one little post may not get seen, but if you use that post or that hashtag on every post you do, now you're it's all
You're
about
increasing
odds,
your
right? Now
odds.
your odds are getting higher. And so be like my book, Chaos, is a Christian nonfiction book. And that Christian nonfiction hashtag may have 150,000 posts. Well, I would say recently with the 60 posts on my Instagram, I would say I'm 60 posts in with that hashtag Christian nonfiction. So my odds are better for someone to see that when it comes to Christian nonfiction. So that's just a perfect example of how to really, really utilize even hashtags.
Wow, love it. So let's talk a little bit about learning from others. Like, do you hire coaches? Do you have mentors? Masterminds? Any of those things? Do you do any of that?
I have someone that I look up to as like a mentor. And one thing especially with business was, starting my own business. I had no idea what I was doing. And so my original coach was YouTube.
Yeah.
And, if the YouTube had 100,000 views, I'm like, "Okay, well, maybe he has something worth listening to." So I did that for a while, listened to podcasts like this to get some ideas. So shout out to you and you know what you're doing. And then but then I found somebody that was already a few steps ahead of me. And that's what's really important when it comes to mentoring and coaching. You need someone who will stretch you and push you and guide you. It's You're only as best as the person, that you're looking up to. And so, um, if the person that you're looking up to is one step ahead of you, that's gonna be where you get to.
Yep.
But if you find somebody that can pour into you that's 4 steps ahead of you, then you know that you can be 4 steps ahead, uh, eventually. And so it's all about making sure that you spend time finding somebody. And in the world that we live in where life is busy, um, you may not be able to meet with them weekly, but I do highly recommend trying, even to do like a Zoom call, do something that is very, again, consistent as well as fruitful when it comes to, what you're talking about. And if you find somebody that's really busy, come prepared with notes. There's time. I leave my phone. I'll take notes. My next time I meet with him, I'm going to ask this question, that sort of thing. So yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, that's good. And that's the thing is that when you have somebody who is a coach, I mean, their job really is to be, kind of like people are in two categories. There's either people that are, you know, telling you what you want to hear and just, trying to make you
yeah,
feel comfortable, I guess. And then there's people that are just totally tearing you down for no reason. Right.
right,
I mean, and that's the free advice that I guess you get. But
yeah.
like, really, when you're hiring a coach, I don't know if it's your experience too, but they're like, kinda like a mix of the both. They tell you what you need to hear to motivate you, but also they kinda point out your blind spots as well and make sure that you're not falling into bad habits and all that stuff. Is that sort of what you look for too?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember growing up, I always was told, show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
Mm,
And I say the same thing really applies to mentorship. Um, is show me your mentor and I can kind of see where your future is going to be. And
right.
so if you find somebody that is doing, bad business behind the scenes, then eventually you'll turn to that. That's just reality. It's not like a doomsday mindset. It's just reality. And so it's finding somebody that has character, but also for lack of a better way to put it, the gonads to tell you that when you're doing something wrong and that can correct you without
Mhm.
you know, either person getting upset. That's reality is you don't want your mentor is not supposed to tell you what you want to hear. They're supposed to tell you like it really is. That's the
Yeah.
only way you can grow.
Agree. Yeah, for sure. So one of the topics that I love to talk about, and it's something that is so important, I think, but also like just like a side note for most people, and that's your home office, your jam room, like where you actually get the work done, where the magic happens, right?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, like, what's your jam room look like?
Mine, I'm an author as well, and so I have a bunch of books in here. But the first thing I did when I decided this was gonna be where I work from home, I invested some money into making sure I had a room that felt, um, comfortable, but not too comfortable.
Hmm.
Because sometimes in my house, if I'm too comfortable, I'm like, "Well, let's just watch The Office the rest of
Take a
the day
nap.
instead of working in my office." Yeah,
Yeah.
and so it was definitely like I needed a place where I could shut the door and it felt like I was at work. I needed that.
Hmm.
And for me, I don't like bright lights. I like it kind of to feel soft lighting. That's what has my juices of creativity flowing. So it really that's how I needed it to be. And so like even the back wall is like this darker brown color. It's like one of my buddy is a professional painter and he said this is the color of the year. So I was like, let's do it. But even that sort of thing, I wanted the colors to feel um just neutral and earthy because that's what helps me kind of like the creativity of what I do flowing. And
Hmm.
so it really works. I've done a bunch of interviews lately to promote my book. And so um, I made sure that I had the right lighting in here as well, so I can sit here and just pull up the podcast mic and go to business. But when it comes to this room, I have stuff that like I have my guitar. I know you play guitar. I have my guitar sitting off to the side
Awesome.
because sometimes I need to take a moment and just turn a song on and kind of jam out. And then I get off and I'm like, okay, I'm pumped. Let's do this. And so I even have those little moments that you definitely don't get in a normal office work setting.
Right
So
on. And so how important do you think that that is? Like, do you think that having the right color on the wall really makes a difference?
I really do. And I think it's different for other people. Some people are maybe more artsy than me. They may need paint splattered walls. I don't know. But for me, this is what I needed that just works for me.
Mhm.
What I needed is I do not like clutter when we're in my workspace. And so I needed colors and a room and even a desk that felt clean and that felt like I'm here to do something today.
Mhm.
And so I needed something that kind of mentally made me think, um, kind of like my office is like an office that a CEO of a really big company would want. So that's what
Right.
I want because that's what I want to strive for. So
Yeah.
it's being pushing a few steps ahead of where I am now, even when it comes to decor and working out the office.
That's awesome. Well, I know that, large companies, casinos, like, there's lots of, like, companies with money that put in a lot of time and money and effort into what their establishment looks like, right?
Yeah,
So, we know there's something to it, otherwise they wouldn't be spending that
right.
money, right?
Yeah, like some people call it like feng shui, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. They need something that's just that sort of tone that fits also what they're doing. I think somebody if they're in the music industry, they may have, a bunch of posters and out, records like a gold record on the
Mm,
wall, platinum record on the wall that just reminds them of like, hey, we've done that. Let's continue for that.
yeah,
For me, like I've won awards for my book, so I have something that says like the that I got from them, like the certificate, and it's a reminder. I have letters from senators. I have posted on the wall that sometimes to remind me this is who we work with. This is the
that's
sort of
awesome.
impact that we have, and that's what we have to strive for.
That's
And so
awesome.
sometimes it's looking ahead to progress us.
Yeah, so you've got, like, a mix of where you've been and also where you're going in your room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's full
That's
circle
awesome.
there.
That's awesome. Okay, so it's time for your guest solo. So tell me what's exciting in your business right now.
We are very stoked to announce that we work with authors currently to help them market and promote their book. And we also coach them. We do conversations like this through Zoom with our authors one on one, and we prep them for interviews so they can come on a podcast or on in the news and have a good interview.
Mm,
We go through their book and we even coach them on here's how you can explain what your book is about in very simplistic terms, but also, like you mentioned earlier about attention spans, you have to have it short and sweet and to the point, that can almost be grabbed for a reel on Instagram later. You want
mhm.
something very simple. But we also point out one-liners from the book. Like for my book, Chaos, I always tell people, "There's purpose in your pain, but please know that the pain was never your purpose." And, things like that is pulling out those little one-liners that is so profound. So someone listening to this driving down the road is going, "I need to remember that. That's a good one-liner that can move on." And so that's what we've been doing. Now we are partnering with Manassas Publishing. It's a newer, publishing company, and we're going to be able to help authors, take their manuscript, get it, the cover art done, the interior art and layout done, get your book published, and then work alongside the author to get it marketed and promoted and even help them get book signing events. So we are working them from start to finish. And the world we live in, a lot of people are doing hybrid publishing where they're spending upfront money, but the hybrid publishers also take in money. You pay them, and then they also get some of your royalties. And so what makes us stand out is you pay us the upfront costs, which is way more affordable than most. And then the author keeps all the royalties because it's their book. That's what they've done. They spend all the time. And so that's what we're doing, and it's very exciting. Even in the midst of all of that, I'm about to I'll launch my new book by next year, middle of next year, and so I'm wrapping that up as we speak. And so a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, you very busy man.
Yeah, yeah, very, very.
So who like is there a specific type of author that would get the most out of working with you?
I would say a lot of the people we push with like podcast interviews that is in our circuit are definitely more like inspirational sort of podcast.
Hmm.
And so we work with a lot of Christian authors, but also like self-help nonfiction sort of authors. We haven't done much with fiction um, because we have the opportunity right now. We're in a place where when they send the manuscript, we can say, we can't add it to our list, like we're busy or something. So sometimes we turn people away not because their work isn't good, but just because it's not a good fit. And I want to make sure that someone doesn't spend all of their money by me telling them, "Oh yeah, we can make it happen." And then when it's time to promote, it's like, "Oh, I don't know where to send you to." And so we want to make sure we can work with people that we can help them out the most because I understand. It's one thing with doing this kind of work is I can empathize more than most because I've been there, done that myself
Yeah.
with my own book. And so I want to make sure that we're not just taking someone's money just because we want the money. We want to make sure that it's they're investing in us so we can invest in them.
Awesome. So how do we find out more?
You can go to thenoahasher.com. All the links are there for my book as well. Shout out to my book, but
Mm.
also there's like a hire us tab and you'll see it'll lead you now to like Manassas books and how you can get on that journey. But if you want to learn more about what we do, everything's on thenoahasher.com. I'm excited to say that when it comes to helping people find purpose in their pain. My book is not a book about prison. It's not about how to shank somebody or anything like that. It's called chaos because chaos comes in many different forms. It may be incarceration, but it also may be job loss. It may be dealing with a bad boss. It may be divorce, maybe illness, the loss of a loved one. And so that chaos, there's many words to describe people's chaos, but there's good news is that we can all overcome it. And with that being said, we are in July and maybe the 1st of August, depending on the editing. But we're about to give the audiobook to 800,000 inmates on their tablets for free.
Wow.
So
Wow.
we're able to reach that many at one time. And we're so thankful, so excited.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are locked up and, metaphorically, not
Yeah.
necessarily physically. So this might be something that can help them, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, for sure. I've the book, I talk about how I lost my dad recently and how I remember the chaos of all of that.
Mm.
And I was diagnosed with lupus a few years back, and for a while I was in a wheelchair because they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me.
Wow.
And now I run 2 miles every day, and so it's just having that conversation about um, health and illness and how chaos life can be chaotic. And sometimes it's chaotic just simply trying to get your family to baseball games and soccer games and all of that. But also it's chaotic when it comes to work. And even working from home, sometimes you think, well, I don't have to commute. So it takes away that. But no, life is still crazy. You're thinking while you're in your office with my door shut, I'm thinking about how I need to wash clothes.
Yeah.
The chaos is still there of just daily chaos. So this book is something that I believe can help many when it comes to um, overcoming their overwhelming.
Wow. So it's thenoahasher.com.
Yes, thenoasher.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Noah, for rocking out with me today. This has been a lot of fun.
Yes. Yeah, same. Thank you.
Cool. To the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment, and we'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar Podcast.